As the pandemic that began in Wuhan ravages the world, tensions between the US and China are flaring up, being manifested even in the military realms to a worrying degree as Chinese warships engage their American counterparts, and US bombers patrol the skies of Asia. Last Tuesday, the Chinese government claimed its military scrambled ships and aircraft to track, monitor, verify, identify, and expel a U.S. warship from the Paracel Island chain in the South China Sea. These provocative acts by the U.S. side have seriously violated China's sovereignty and security interests, deliberately increased regional security risks, and could easily trigger an unexpected incident, reads a statement from PLA Southern Theater Command spokesman Li Huaman, reported the South China Morning Post. The presence of a U.S. Navy vessel in the region was confirmed by Navy officials to USNI News, who said that the guided missile destroyer USS Barry DDG-52 conducted a freedom of navigation operation in the vicinity of the island chain off Vietnam. The official stated that the operation proceeded as planned, without encountering any unsafe or unprofessional behavior from Chinese military aircraft or warships. Taiwanese media reported that the American vessel sailed through the Taiwan Strait twice this month, followed both times by Chinese warships. The Paracel Islands, known as the Chisha Islands in China and the Hoang Sa Archipelago in Vietnam, are a group of more than 30 islands in the South China Sea located between the coastlines of Vietnam and China. They are controlled by Beijing but also claimed by Taipei and Hanoi. China claims almost all of the South China Sea, waters where Vietnam, Brunei, Malaysia, the Philippines, and Indonesia also have claims. The area is highly disputed, carrying over $3 trillion in trade every year and believed to hold immense gas and oil reserves. It was reported on Sunday that the U.S. transferred 4 B-1B Lancer conventional strike bombers and a complement of about 200 airmen from a base in Texas to the Andersen Air Force Base on the island of Guam, less than 3,000 miles from the coast of China and about 2,300 miles from the China South Sea hotspot. The B-1 Guam deployment is the first of its kind since 2017, when the bombers were flown to Japan and South Korea amid tensions with North Korea over its nuclear program. PACAF Chief of Operations Force Management Lieutenant Colonel Frank Welton released a statement emphasizing that the B-1 was capable of carrying the Long-Range Anti-Surface Cruise Missile (LRASM), giving it an advanced standoff counter-ship capability. The U.S. military continued its show of force in the South China Sea, with a sortie over the contested waters on Thursday by 2 Air Force bombers. The B-1B Lancers from the 28th Bomb Wing at Ellsworth Air Force Base, SD, flew a 32-hour round trip to conduct operations over the sea as part of a joint bomber task force by the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command and U.S. Strategic Command, the Air Force said in news release Thursday. The deployment comes following the withdrawal of 5 B-52 nuclear-capable Stratofortress bombers from Guam to the U.S. mainland in mid-April, which temporarily froze the Pentagon's 16-year-long Continuous Bomber Presence mission on the Pacific Island. Tensions between the U.S. and China have also flared over the pandemic, which began in Wuhan. Several nations have criticized the Chinese government's handling of the outbreak of the epidemic, claiming that they misreported the data and mishandling the onset. In addition, President Trump claimed the virus escaped from a microbiology laboratory in Wuhan. The State Department and intelligence services are reportedly investigating this possibility. A report by the Department of Homeland Security found that the Chinese government intentionally concealed the severity of the coronavirus from the international community, while it stockpiled imports and decreased export. China likely cut its exports of medical supplies prior to its January WHO World Health Organization notification that COVID-19 is a contagion. The report reads, according to one source, "You've got the facts just about right," Pompeo told ABC's This Week. When asked if China intentionally stockpiled medical supplies in early January while it concealed the severity of COVID-19. "We can confirm that the Chinese Communist Party did all that it could to make sure that the world didn't learn in a timely fashion about what was taking place." The Trump administration is reportedly formulating a long-term plan to punish China on multiple fronts for the coronavirus pandemic. In response, the Chinese government has run a powerful propaganda campaign, promoting the theory that the U.S. military imported the coronavirus to Wuhan during the Military World Games held in Wuhan last October. It was the largest military sports event ever to be held in China, with nearly 10,000 athletes from over 100 countries competing in 27 sports. Some articles on popular sites in Chinese have accused American athletes participating in the Wuhan Military World Games to have deployed the virus. They claim the inattentive attitude and disproportionately below average results of American athletes in the game indicate they might have been in for other purposes, and they might actually be bio-warfare operatives, and that their place of residence during their stay in Wuhan was also close to the Huanan seafood wholesale market, where the first known cluster of cases occurred. Any Chinese person who disputes that narrative on social media can have their account shut down, and their families arrested. Rabbi Pinchas Winston, a prominent End of Days author, gave a disclaimer before explaining the biblical context of the rising Sino-American tensions. But what is clear is that everyday routines are not going to go back to familiar pre-pandemic conditions. It is also becoming clear that the pandemic is affecting global events in entirely unanticipated ways. In the 1920s, the Depression led to World War II, which led to the Holocaust. Who could have known that the Depression would start a series of events culminating in death camps and millions of people being killed? Even after Kristallnacht, people did not know that such a wave of destruction was about to wash over the entire world. Most people get their information from the internet, so we only hear bits and pieces of the big picture. Now, as events unfold, more and more of what has been going on for some time is being revealed. The average person stood back horrified at the pandemic ravaging the world. But now we say from their actions that the Chinese government saw this as an opportunity to shift the power balance. The average person is thinking about staying healthy, but as events unfold, we see that there are other factors. We do have a prophecy of a war between the East and the West. The war of Gog and Magog looming over us. Someone, some country, is going to be the bad boy that set events in motion. We always make the mistake of trying to use human logic to understand a larger-than-human historical process. In a recent interview, Rabbi Daniel Azer warned that the United States and China will go to war against each other. He explains this war was predicted by the secret Tzaddik, Saint Rabbi Yehuda Lefkovich. Rabbi Lefkovich predicted that the Third World War will start between China and America over 20 years ago, before the tensions were at the level that they are today. According to Rabbi Lefkovich, this war will be the biblical war of Gog and Magog. Russia will join China in the war, Rabbi Azer added. At the same time, he points to Rabbi Levi Saadia Nakamani, who predicted 20 years ago that Iran will wage a war against Israel and will receive military assistance from North Korea. This China-led Gog and Magog alliance may have already begun. In December, China, Iran, and Russia held joint naval drills in the Indian Ocean and Sea of Oman, which were meant to deepen cooperation between the three countries' navies. Iranian Rear Admiral Hossein Khanzadi described the significance of the drills. When we talk about joint wargames, we are talking about two or more countries with a high level of relations in various political, economic, and social fields, which culminate in cooperation in the military sector, with wargames usually being the highest level of such cooperation. Khanzadi said to Iran's Tasnim news agency, "A joint wargame between several countries, whether on land, at sea, or in the air, indicates a remarkable expansion of cooperation among them." He added,